When asked in the Cosmos newsroom, would you rather, queries typically lead to a rabbit hole full of fascinating and bizarre scientific information. If you don't know about the spaghettification of a black hole and the heat of the sun's corona, you probably won't make it to the surface. Then you can't answer the question of whether you'd rather get sucked up by a black hole or cooked by the sun. Would you rather? Is a new podcast that was recently released by the Cosmos newsroom that brings those discussions to you. This video will delve carefully into the positives and negatives of competing viewpoints on topics of profound scientific interest, such as the pros and cons of living in the frozen wastes of space as opposed to the freezing wastes of Antarctica. This week's debate is on two locations that are terrifyingly remote, technologically advanced, incredibly challenging, and to which very few people have ever been: the International Space Station and Antarctica. The question is, which of these two locations would you rather live in for an entire year? The International Space Station or Antarctica? After you've watched the whole video, you may cast your vote for the location you think is better. Also, before we start, subscribe to our channel for more updates. The Space International Sytem, ISS. The fact that the International Space Station is located in space is its primary selling point. Around 420 kilometers separate the station from the surface of the planet, and it is traveling around it at a speed of 27,700 kilometers per hour. An astronaut on the International Space Station would view 15 or 16 sunrises per day as a result of this. That's one dawn every 92 minutes, which is a huge amount more than a person living in the dim climate of Antarctica would get to see in a year's time. However, the distance from one end of the house to the other is just 108 meters, and the cupola, which is where you go to enjoy the beautiful sunsets, is located directly next to the bathroom and the exercise machine, so the atmosphere isn't exactly as serene as you might expect it to be. The bathroom is a completely different story. A $23 million issuance. When you are on a mission, though, at least you won't have to worry about transporting your feces back to the Antarctic Research Station. The International Space Station has only ever been visited by 112 astronauts, so to become one of them would be quite an accomplishment, and it would also make you a part of something much bigger. Since November of the year 2000, there have been people living on and working on the International Space Station continuously. It's been more than 22 years since humans were only found on Earth. Daniel G. Out, the public affairs lead at NASA, told us in an email. Put another way, it's been more than 22 years. Work is done every single day, with the primary focus being on research that will benefit people on Earth while also pushing the boundaries of technologies that will be required to establish a human presence on the Moon and Mars for an extended period of time. Research facilities situated in the Antarctica. It's possible that Antarctica isn't technically in space, but in comparison to the ISS, it definitely has more room. There are 3 research stations in Antarctica that are permanently staffed by members of the Australian Antarctic Division. 2 of these stations are located on the coast of the continent, and the third is located on Macquarie Island. The human population varies from approximately 80 people spread over 4 stations in the winter to more than 500 people throughout the summer. There are around 16 million penguins in the world. When compared to the International Space Station, ISS, the majority of guests are provided with their very own room, even during the busiest times of the year, and users report that the bathrooms function similarly to how they would up north. Even though there are only a few hours of sunshine in June, 2 of the permanent stations, Macquarie and Casey, are located far enough north to get sunlight throughout the entire year. There are in fact 1 or 2 months of complete darkness during the middle of the year for people who spend the winter at Mawson and Davis. Even though the number of expeditioners in Antarctica does not lend itself to the same kind of reputation that one may acquire from being an astronaut on the International Space Station, ISS, it does bring one other huge advantage: more employees to support each other with jobs such as cooking and medicine. Each station has a chef who, along with the assistance of the other employees, is responsible for the preparation of the majority of the meals. If you're not going out on the ice, you shouldn't bring any food that has been rehydrated. According to Dr. John Cherry, an Antarctic medical practitioner with the Australian Antarctic Division and fellow of the Australian College of Rural and Remote Medicine, we really are unparalleled in the medical support that we can provide to our expeditions in Antarctica. Cherry worked as the resident physician at Davis Station for one winter. We have some of the best telemedicine capabilities in the world, and the training that we receive as doctors before we head south is some of the best training that you could ask for. This is significant because in the event of a medical emergency, it is considerably more difficult to evacuate someone from Antarctica than it is to remove them from the International Space Station, ISS. We are talking about an evacuation that takes months, rather than 24 hours. Antarctica is a crucial testing ground for long-haul space journeys, according to Cherry, who is also a researcher in the field of space medicine. He says this is the main reason. But he laughs when you ask him whether he prefers spend a year on the International Space Station or in Antarctica. Am I allowed to pick both of them? Talking about ISS, there is neither a bath nor a shower in the room. When you turn on a sink or a faucet everywhere on Earth, the water flows downhill. The force of gravity is responsible for this effect. If you were to turn on a water source in space, such as a faucet, the liquid would spray out in all directions. Gravity is incredibly weak in space. Because of this, the International Space Station does not have any bathtubs, showers, or washstands. If you want to clean your body, you should use a moist cloth that also contains body wash and wipe it all over. To clean your hair, apply shampoo that can be rinsed out without water, and then remove it from your hair using a dry towel. If you want to clean your hands or face, you can use a wet wipe or a damp cloth that contains liquid soap to wipe those areas. The majority of the time, astronauts get some shut-eye by confining their bodies within a cramped sleeping compartment or a sleeping bag. Because there is nearly no gravity in space, it is impossible to differentiate between up and down in the same way that this is possible on Earth. Because any surface can function as a floor, wall, or ceiling, astronauts are free to sleep wherever they like. However, because there is not enough gravity, the astronauts run the risk of floating away while they are asleep. Astronauts can exercise in space utilizing equipment. Even when you are not moving, your body is working against the force of gravity and supporting itself through its muscles and bones in order to keep its position on Earth. Because there is nearly no gravity in space, and therefore no need for muscles and bones to support your body, if you don't exercise, your muscles and bones will weaken. However, if you do exercise, your muscles and bones will strengthen. If muscles and bones are not regularly used, then there is no way for them to get stronger. As a result, astronauts perform their daily workouts for approximately 2 hours, using resistance exercise equipment for weight training and cardio exercise equipment like treadmills and ergometers. Using vacuum cylinders, resistance exercise equipment designed for weight training enables a load to be applied even in space, and as a result, weight training in space can be performed in a manner that is nearly identical to weight training on Earth. The astronauts can exercise on the treadmill while having their bodies restrained by rubber straps at the same time. The ergometer functions similarly to a bicycle but lacks wheels. The intensity of the workout may be altered by changing the amount of force applied to the pedals. Tell us about your opinions in the comments below and subscribe to our channel before leaving. Also click the bell icon to get notifications of the latest videos.